This video is sponsored by Wing Technology, your ultimate flight sim hardware solution.
Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing very well. It's January 2021. We've had our valuable viewer request from Sergeant Lang. Please make a video about which plane is better, personally, JF-17 or F-16. So we're going to do exactly that. Let's compare the modules as they stand. Jan 2021, JF-17 Thunder versus F-16 Viper. Which one is most worth your $80? Personally. So what that means is this is what I think personally, this is what RC thinks personally. It's not an objective look at the comparison and it's not an empirical look at the comparison. Those are done in proper hour-long videos that we've got. Speaking of which, the proper buyer's guides for the F-16 is here, rated as objectively as we can in terms of capability, kinetic performance, the visual effects, the sound effects, the flight model, the interactivity and detail of the model, the difficulty of learning, and the history and reliability of the module, and a score sheet there scored by us and the rest of the Reapers. Same thing here for the JF. I will link those two videos in the video description of the video that you're watching now if you want to go and follow up with those. As well as that, don't forget our quick reference guide. This shows at a glance the basic capabilities of each aircraft. So we've got the two here, the Thunder and the F-16. Both early access, both air-to-air refueling. Viper has the HMD and Hob. No helmet mounted display for the Thunder. Both have a gun. Only the Thunder has air-to-ground radar at the moment. The Viper comes later. All that's the same. The only other difference is we have anti-shipping for the Thunder. We're pretty sure we're not going to get any anti-shipping for the Viper. The GR average score between all members was 16.5 out of 20 for the Thunder, 16.25 for the Viper. Now, bearing in mind, this is taken into account that the Viper is at an early state, and we expect that to rise probably when it's more complete. And again, links to videos of how we came about that information. Now, back onto our more personal thoughts. For me, in summary, I prefer the F-16 over the Thunder. Now, that's not to say I dislike the Thunder, because I actually think it's really good, and I think you're a fan as well, aren't you, RC?
I am.
But for me, the Viper just slightly edges ahead in terms of quality of module. So the main talking points I've got here, things that you would prefer one over the other. Well, start on the JF. Anti-shipping is useful, it's a cool thing to do, it's good fun, and the F-16 is never going to have it as far as we're aware. It also has cruise missiles with TV terminal guidance. Now, we're not certain whether the Viper is going to get that or not, so I'm not going to say yes or no, but I'm guessing it's not going to get it. Currently, in Jan 2021, the JF has standoff GPS INS guided weapons, which are obviously quite important for nowadays theatre. It has a jammer, which is useful, and it has air-to-ground radar, which is not fully functional, but it is pretty functional. And generally speaking, the Thunder is feature complete at this time. Now, these three things, standoff, jammer, and air-to-ground radar, will all be coming to the F-16 in the next few months. But you asked for this comparison for how they are now if you would spend your $80 now. Now, let's jump to the F-16. For me personally, it's important that the kinematics, so that means how fast it is, how fast it accelerates, how fast it can turn, how fast it can climb, how fast it can roll, and so on. I've done full tests for these, and if you want to know more about them, please go to the two videos we looked at earlier, the buyer's guides. Click on the timestamps in that video to go to kinematics, and you'll see the full kinematic layout there. Now, from memory, the F-16 wins all 10 of them except one, which is the sustained low-level turn rate. Now, this is only a snapshot of the EM charts for these aircraft, because all I do is sustained turn rate at sea level, half fuel, with a 0 drag index. Usually it's quite a good indication. This guy here gets 1 degree per second over the F-16. Everything else, the F-16 seems to win. Hence one of the reasons why F-16 is now so popular in PvP air-to-air battles. Another thing for me, HMD and Hob. Now, as you know, I'm not a tech guy. I don't really like gadgets and stuff like that. However, the HMD and the high off-bore sight missile, which go hand in hand, obviously, is just genuinely useful. And when you go back and fly this, which is a modern plane, bearing in mind, it's just as modern as the F-16, if not more modern, the lack of HMD and Hob is a real, if you like, reason not to fly it, we find, because it really can be a lifesaver. So that is quite a big thing for contemporary comparison. The gun, M61A1 Vulcan cannon, I think, in this, really cool gun, sounds really good, feels really good, lovely spread, really useful for air-to-air and can do some air-to-ground. This gun, I can't remember exactly what it is. I think it's a single barrel autocannon. To be honest, pretty terrible I found in air-to-air, but pretty decent air-to-ground, but it's just not as good a gun for me. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, the good gun is made for air-to-ground, so...
Next comes to the flight model. To be honest, they're both pretty good and they're both relatively similar in their flight model performance. Again, it just comes into that kind of top 5% of quality. And for me, the F-16 just feels better for me. Now, feels is obviously a subjective word. It's not an objective word and I can't really prove it to you. But for me, I feel happier flying an F-16 around. I imagine that if you removed all the cockpit graphics and sounds and everything, I would still prefer that flight model over that one. I just think this feels better in the way that the fly-by-wire, for instance, interacts with what you're actually doing. It just works better for me. I can't say any more than that. Do you agree with the flight model RC or anything different?
Flight model on the 16 is more verifiable because there's more information out there about it.
Absolutely, what you're saying. For me, it's
You're talking about the feel of it?
I think it's a feel thing. Yeah, so it's not about numbers.
Yeah.
There are no numbers in there. To me, it just makes me feel like I'm flying a real aeroplane, whereas there's a tiny bit of game/sim still in the JF-17. Not saying the JF-17 is bad, because I don't think it is. It's just it's up against what I think is probably the best plane in DCS at the moment.
Agree with that.
Roger. And if you drive them both and you're not kind of biased, I think you'd probably feel the same with me. That comes to cockpit graphics, which are important, exterior graphics and sound, and for that we'll jump into DCS. In the F-16 now, and as I slowly pan around and try not to blur it, even at the low bitrate that you're seeing, I hope that just looks really good. Like, I don't want to say photorealistic, and I'm not a gamer, so I don't have much to compare it to, but for me, it feels really, what's the word? Depth comes to mind. See lots of difference between, I know it's a good word, again, I know it's stupid, but feel. I can feel that that is soft. I can feel that that is rough. I can feel that that is smooth. I can feel that that is smooth. Do you know what I'm saying? So, again, I don't know anything about how these graphics are created and maintained or whatever. That texture, these textures, for me, it's, along with the F-14, it's the best in the game. Okay, now keep that in mind, exactly what you've seen. Now we're going to jump over to the JF and just look at exactly the same thing, same everything, same settings, same light, same, you can't compare me, you can't say I'm being unfair. That's the JF there. Now bearing in mind, the JF's been improved a lot. When it first came out about a year ago, it was, to be honest, terrible, and they've improved it a lot and worked hard on it, which is great. For me, it's still not quite there. I mean, just thinking out my head, look at the texture of that seat there compared to the F-16, and I don't know. I can't even really say anymore because I don't know any words, any of these gaming words and stuff. It just don't look as good to me.
If you look at the pictures of a real Jeff, it really looks just as plain.
Yeah.
As DCS. So I think that overall the cockpit isn't as dynamic visually in real life than the F-16, and that might be part of it.
Well, maybe that's part of it then. Well, viewers, let me know what you think. To me, it just doesn't look as good for reasons I just don't understand. Anyway, then there's the exterior. I find them quite similar. Exterior. I mean, they are relatively similar planes, same size, pretty much the same layout. Again, I think the JF is not quite as polished. I mean, it's got some great details and stuff, but I just think it's not quite polished. And again, on your YouTube video, it won't look quite like what I'm looking at now, so you have to take it with a pinch of salt. But yeah, I don't think it's more detailed per se, but they're just, again, I don't know if contrast is the right word or texture is the right word. I just prefer the way the F-16's done. Maybe they've got more experience. I don't know. That's just what I think. And finally, the sound. The sound for me is really important, just as important as the visuals, actually. And I think it's something that's overlooked by a lot of developers, and I think a lot are catching on now and improving their sound engines. But if I turn it up to what I would call game sound, this is what I would have in a mission. Listen to the way this engine spools, the sound feedback that I get, and the words, the brightness of the sound, the detail of the sound. Again, maybe the texture of the sound. Listen to this. jump over. So same settings. I've added in the option for the loud afterburner, which isn't on there as standard, but I need it to live, basically. It's just not quite there. The whistle in the background is still not quite loud enough. I can't hear exactly what the engine's doing. And as well as that, as well as practicality, I want a cool, really cool, loud-sounding engine because it increases my enjoyment of what is, at the end of the day, for us, the non-military users, a game. So that's it. So that's gone over all my talking points on why I prefer the Viper to this, and if I were to spend my $80 again, which I'm not, but if I did, I would definitely choose the F-16. Not to say that this is bad, because this is actually really cool. Anything to add to that, RC?
Nope. Nothing to that.
I hope you found that useful, and see you later.